the main point I want to make from this is just being a well-rounded athlete. You don't want to be, in my opinion, unless you're, an elite athlete, professional athlete training for a specific event, the marathon, a 5K, trying to go to the Olympics, trying to be the best in the world. I don't see a lot of benefit in being one-dimensional. There's no point, I don't think, in me going and just being the best 5K runner I can be, because then if I want to transition to a marathon, if I want to, go run 10 miles with my friends, 20 miles, am I going to be able to do that and do it well? Probably not. But if you're always kind of dabbling and doing all these different things, some people might push back and say, well, you're a jack of all trades, but a master of none. I don't see any benefit unless you're an elite athlete, a professional athlete trying to hone in and fine tune a specific distance. I think that you're going to be better off. It's going to be better for your body, better for longevity, better for your overall health to be able to dabble in all these different events. And so that's kind of the main reason for this episode. And it goes outside of just racing and competing. It's like if, I don't know, your car breaks down and you need to go run 5 miles to the mechanic store, whatever, like you're able to do that. If a dog is chasing you, or if you're playing with your kids in the backyard and you want to be able to sprint, you can do that too. If you're moving furniture, or if you're in some weird situation where you got to pick up a log or a rock or something to save somebody's life, like you have the strength to be able to do that. So that's kind of the rationale. It might sound crazy to some people, but those are honestly the things I think about when I'm training for all these things is, I want to be able to do these races and do them well and kind of be able to do anything, but also in real life situations, like being able to use my body in all these different modalities and just kind of be ready for anything life throws at you and be ready for any type of race. So I'm just rambling, but hopefully this is making sense. I'm going to talk about how I train for all these different things and how I kind of like incorporate all these different events. So what I really like to do each year is I like to have 1 to 2 big annual efforts. 2023, it was the Boston Marathon, and then in the fall, it was the Chicago Marathon. I had 2 big marathon efforts that year. This year for 2024, main objective was the Bighorn 100. So I did all these races, all these little things leading up to that, building mileage, doing the 3 sub-3 marathons, the 50 milers, and then the second half of 2024 is going to be the High Rocks event. So the 5K I just ran this weekend is going to help with that. The 12-hour race I'm doing this weekend probably isn't going to help a whole lot. It's not going to hurt me. But I built all this training up over the summer that I want to utilize in this race. But I want to basically pick 1 to 2 big efforts per year, and then within those, leading up to those, find little things that are going to help me along the way. So training for Bighorn, I picked up all the marathons. I did 4 marathons leading up, and building that speed, building that endurance, being able to run on tired legs. That helped so much on race day at the 100-miler. Obviously doing the 50-mile race leading up, doing the speed project, all these different races helped to build that fitness and obviously being able to use that on race day. Same thing for the High Rocks. So and the reason for 1 to 2 workouts, or the reason for 1 to 2 big efforts per year is I think every 6 months or so, our bodies can do a big effort. I think if you're doing more than that, like if you're really pushing your limits and trying to maximize your potential, I think about every 6 months, at least for me, what I find is pretty ideal. And it seems like most elite athletes and pro runners do the same thing. I think that's why the major marathons are spread out every 6 months. You've got all the ones in the spring, all the ones in the fall, broken up every 6 months roughly. So it seems like 1 to 2 times a year, finding a big effort to go and train for, because then you can do 3-4 month build up, hit your race, take 1 to 2 months to kind of chill, have an off season, do some other things, 3 to 4 month build up, do the race, and so on. So I find that 6 month block to be really, really beneficial. And so, yes, where do I go next from here? I guess I can dive into my training, talk about how my training varies depending on what I'm training for. Obviously, a 100-mile race is going to require much, much different training than a 5K or a high rocks or something. But for the most part, my running volume stays relatively the same. I'm always running like minimum 20 to 30 miles a week, every single week, no matter what. And most of those miles are very, very easy miles, like 9 to 10 minute pace. I usually run with the dogs for the first few miles, and they're a little bit slower than me, so they're very slow miles. Like if you see my Strava, if you see my Instagram where I post my runs, most of the time 9 to 10 minute pace. I don't care. I think just logging miles, getting your body used to always moving, always being able to go for a run. You don't always have to go and smoke yourself. You don't have to have your heart rate jacked up. You don't have to go set a PR every day. And this took me a long time to learn. When I first started running, I didn't understand that. I tried to run as hard as I could every single day, and I was always hurt. I was always tired. But being able to just find that nice chill pace, spend time on your feet, and just get the miles in, I feel like that is so much more beneficial than trying to go out and run fast every single day. And then when it comes to speed work, that's really just race specific. So for a marathon, obviously, I'm going to be doing one big speed workout a week, occasionally like a big marathon workout on the weekends. Like right now for High Rocks, I'm going to do one speed workout a week, and then the other high-intensity stuff is going to be built into the strength training portion. If I'm training for a 100-miler or an ultramarathon, probably less speed work, more speed work based on feel, some more fartlek type sessions, rather than like pace-specific sessions. So I think everybody should do speed work no matter what you're training for. It just depends on what type of speed work you're doing. Again, for High Rocks, it's going to be shorter, more intense stuff like 200 meter, 400 meter, 1,000 meter repeats. Probably nothing much longer than that. For a marathon, obviously, you're going to be doing a lot of like tempo stuff, like 5 mile, 6 mile efforts. And then again, for ultras, it's just like, 1 minute on, 1 minute off, 2 minutes on, that kind of stuff. So very race specific speed work, but always doing some kind of speed work, or at least I try to. And then as far as lifting minimum 3 times a week, always. Typically 3 big heavy days. So 1 big heavy day for legs, some squats, deadlifts. I love doing like box step ups, Bulgarian split squats, like kind of the functional movements. I'll hit a big chest day with some bench press, hit a big back day with lots of pull-ups, some barbell rows, and then I call them bonus days. So 3 days a week minimum of strength training. And then the bonus days, that's again where it gets more race specific. So that's where if I'm just trying to be healthy, be functional, kind of well-rounded, I'm going to do a lot of kettlebell stuff, kettlebell cleans, kettlebell snatches, lots of kettlebell swings, that kind of thing. For High Rocks, obviously, that's where it gets really race specific because there's so much strength involved in the race itself. So that's going to be like the sled push, the sled pull, the ski erg, the rowing machine, lots of farmers carries, tons of wall balls. Very race specific. For an ultra marathon, that's where I'm going to do a lot of like very, very, very functional stuff. So like lots of single leg things, a lot of like box step ups, tons of box step ups, tons of Bulgarian split squats, because that's going to really focus on loading up that single leg action with weight, balancing. I also got a slant board leading up to Bighorn, and that helped me tremendously. I would do basically like isometric holds on the slant board, where you stand on one foot, you get in kind of like a lunge position, balancing, bend your knee, bend your ankle, and you're kind of simulating holding your body in that position with load, like you're going to be when you're running. Every time you land, you're in that bent position, your hips bent, your knees bent, your ankles bent, and on the slant board, you get these different angles of like supination, pronation, uphill, downhill, and that helped me so much, mostly for like ankle mobility and ankle strength, because on a trail, there's rocks, there's roots, it's always uneven, and that helped me a ton. So yeah, and the for High Rocks, I want to talk about the high intensity stuff. Totally different engine than what I'm used to. Like the workout I did yesterday, we had 8 different strength sessions or strength workouts. So we had like basically all the ones you'd have in high rocks, so like wall balls, lunges, sled push, sled pull, that kind of stuff. And then in between each one, I would row for 2 minutes, and then I do the strength session for 2 minutes, row for 2 minutes, that for just 40 minutes straight. It's very high intensity. It reminds me of like a really fast-paced, high-intensity like tempo workout because you don't really get a lot of rest. You're kind of always moving. And when you're incorporating the strength side of things too, it's so much energy required because not only is your heart rate high, you're pushing yourself from a cardio perspective, but you're using so much energy from the strength side of things too, because your muscles demand so much energy, and you have to be paying attention to your form. So it's just a totally different way of training, and I really, really enjoyed it. And I think a big thing to note is like all the training I did before, like the functional stuff in my garage gym with like kettlebells and the box step ups and the deadlifts and all that stuff, very functional training, translated very well to this high intensity, high rocks type training. I really haven't had to learn a whole lot. It's a lot of the same movements. You're just using different machinery or different pieces of equipment. For example, like a ski erg, if you think about it, is almost like a kettlebell swing or a deadlift. It's this hinging movement, this pulling movement, and this explosion at the top. So very similar to that, or like a sled push and sled pull are going to be similar to like a deadlift, or going to be similar to like box step ups, because you're pushing, you're driving, and it's controlled. You have one foot on the ground at a time. So all these things translate really, really well. So again, going back to being ready for everything. And I think it's a skill. There's, could be some genetics at play, or some, not genetics, but like maybe more so like your life experiences, I should say. Like if you play sports growing up, like for me, I played hockey, I played baseball, I golfed, I guess that's mostly, I played football for like a year, but kind of dabbling in all these different events, I think builds all these different skills over time. And then that way, if I want to go play basketball, I kind of have those same skills from the other sports I played. And so just being adaptable, and you don't have to have that prior experience. Obviously it helps, but you can start building that now. You can start training like this and incorporating all these different modalities of training. So that way, if this fall you want to train for a marathon, but then next spring you want to do high rocks, you can make that transition because you're already ready, and you can go and do it well, not get injured, not have to worry about overtraining. So again, the whole point of this is don't be one-dimensional. Don't just do bench, dead, squat every day, leave the gym, go run your 5 miles easy. Like, do some high intensity stuff, do some functional movements, do some kettlebell stuff. Just learn and be a student and be willing to be a beginner and try something new. And I think you're going to find, not only does it help, obviously, being prepared for anything, but it helps with the boredom and it helps with burnout. I find that if I'm just training for marathons all the time, I get so bored, I get so burnt out, because it's just the same thing over and over and over again. But if I switch to a 5K or a high rocks or a 100-mile race and I switch up my training a little bit, it's all kind of the same, but it's a new stimulus. It's a new goal. It's a new mindset that's required. And so you're always flexing these different muscles and honing these skills, and always just adding another tool to your tool belt.